1982 by US Games, a wholly owned subsidiary of Quaker Oats. We have Space Jockey. It's one of 14 games released by US Games before they closed their doors forever because they failed so bad. Well, no, not really, but that's a different story for later. Let's pop it in 2600 Junior and check it out. Now you'll notice that in Space Jockey, you play the antagonist, which is quite an interesting concept, especially in the early days of video games. In 1982, this is one of the first games where you actually play as the antagonist. You are the invading alien force, and you're invading Earth and shooting down humans in their puny helicopters and hot air balloons and airplanes and tanks and houses, and you even shoot down their trees. All for points, of course. And the glory of saying that you destroyed the planet Earth. Now, I won't mince words here when I say this, and I mean it. This game is really simple. I mean, the control is straightforward and honest. You just move up and down with your spaceship. You can't move forward or back. The screen and the enemies scroll towards you. Most of the enemies shoot. The houses, of course, don't shoot. And the hot air balloons don't shoot. And the trees don't shoot. Everything else just about shoots at you. It's quite easy to avoid most enemy shots. And there's not a whole lot to crash into. There's only 4 or 5 basic planes. I think there's 4 basic planes where enemies can appear. And that's from the ground level and 3 levels above it. So if you're looking for a challenging Atari 2600 game, look elsewhere. Now, before you totally discount Space Jockey, this game does have some redeeming qualities. In general, it looks and sounds good. And it doesn't play like a broken game. It actually functions, which is more than can be said for some Atari 2600 games, especially in the later days, in the later quarter of '82, and then when you get into 1983. You generally find Atari games that just don't even work right. They were just so poorly programmed and produced. So hey, at least Space Jockey has that going for it. It functions and it's not broken. Now, when you talk about the video game crash of 1982 and 83, there are a couple of companies that come up in conversation, and this is one of them. US Games is one of them, considered a contributing factor towards the crash of video games in the early 80s. And I find that somewhat unjustified. Yes, it was Quaker Oats' attempt to cash in on the video game craze of the early 80s, and they produced 14 games before they closed their doors. The thing is, I find half of their games pretty enjoyable. This game's okay, you know, not my favorite, certainly not the worst game I've ever played for the Atari 2600, but one of my favorite games of all time is a USA game, or I should say US game, and that would be Entombed. That game is simply wonderful to play with 2 players in the cooperative gameplay. But alas, this is no Entombed. It's just mediocre at best. The good thing about Space Jockey is it's relatively cheap. If you're looking to pick it up, expect to spend less than $2. And that can be said for most US games. So if you're a collector and you'd like to collect the entire game catalog of a video game company like US Games, you're looking at spending less than, I don't know, $30 probably. And there you have it, Space Jockey for the Atari 2600. If you'd like to pick up Space Jockey, you can check out my video game store, link in the description box. I'm Dommy from Classic Games Revisited. Until next time.